Welcome to the US Snagboat Montgomery video. In this video I have the following topics: snags and snagboats, location, hours, cost, reviews, your arrival, what do you see, US Montgomery itself, where it worked, basic operations, other snagboats, and my conclusion. I'm sure you know what the old paddle wheel riverboats or steamboats were. They transported goods and people up and down the big rivers after the years of the Revolutionary War. Side wheel designs were popular in the 1820s and 1830s, but stern wheel designs were the norm by the 1840s. No riverboat lasted more than a few years, often heavily damaged or sunk from debris in the river. First, what is a snag? Well, in the rivers of the U.S., it's a hidden obstacle or sharp projection in the river that can damage or even sink boats, typically a dead tree. Therefore, a snag boat was a specialty built boat that traveled up and down major rivers, removing hazardous obstacles such as snags. A snag was the most significant threat to navigation because it was often undetectable. River pilots looked for these three kinds of snags: rafts, planters, and sawyers. The U.S. Snagboat Montgomery is today one of the nation's only two remaining steam-powered stern-wheel snagboats. The other is the Preston. The U.S. Snagboat Montgomery is located at the Tom Bevel Lock and Dam Visitor Center in Aliceville, Alabama, basically at the border of Mississippi and Alabama, in the middle of nowhere, on the banks of the Tombigbee River. From Pickensville, drive down Highway 14, then turn onto Lock and Dam Road. Easy enough to get to. It is open between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Wednesday through Saturday year-round. It is free to go through and to walk around. The reviews to me are fairly worthless. Since the boat is in disrepair, you're currently not allowed to board it and see inside. You can see the exterior by walking around it. I was not overly impressed. It is really neat to see, but that's all you get for right now. What you will see when you arrive to this location is you will first see the big, huge replica plantation home. It's actually a museum of sorts. Cool place. I will have a separate video for the museum in the future. Inside the home is a good amount of information about the US Snagboat Montgomery. You will, of course, walk to the right of the Plantation Home Museum to see the Montgomery. Also, if you're inclined to do so, you can go over to the Lock and Dam, or you can get a good view from the Plantation Home. The Montgomery is a steam-powered, stern-wheel propelled snagboat built in 1925 by the Charleston Dry Dock and Machine Company of Charleston in South Carolina. It was in service with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers from 1926 to 1982 until its retirement on November 8, 1982. It was designated a National Historic Landmark in 1989 and moved to its current location in 2003. It is 178 feet long and 34 feet wide. The hull is flat, no keel. The hull itself is 156 feet long with a depth of only 6 feet. The hull is built from rows of steel I-beams to support all that massive machinery and to withstand the stress of pulling very heavy waterlogged materials. The forward mount A-frame boom can use a dredge bucket or snag equipment. The boom is operated by two large steam winches. One turns the boom in an arch in front of the boat, while the other lifts the snags. There are also steam-powered capstans to keep the boat stable and aid in pulling heavy debris. The capstans are basically a winch that can pull in or out a heavy object by means of ropes, cables, or chains. It rotates on a vertical shaft to wind in whatever type of line that is wrapped around it. They can exert a pull of about 35 tons. If you simply do a Google search on how did a snag boat use a capstan, you will get a really neat explanation. The pilot house is directly above the boilers. The pilot house is the primary control center. It is built of steel with large sliding windows all around. Perched high up, it has the best 360-degree view possible. Equipment to steer the boat, communications with the engine room, and has the controls for the snagging boom. The paddle wheel is constructed of steel and wood. It is 18 feet in diameter and 20 feet long. It could paddle its way at a maximum speed of almost 9 miles per hour. The boat layout is, you have the main deck, which includes the snagging machinery, boom, crew's quarters, the engine room, and the paddle wheel. As for the crew's quarters, their cabins are located amidship between the boiler and the engine room. 4 crew members were housed in each of the 6 cabins. Each crewman had his own bunk and locker. The second deck up has the galley, pantry, crew's mess, officers' quarters, which were 6 cabins, and then stacked on top of all of that is the pilot house. In 1899, Congress created the Refuse Act, which gave U.S. Army Corps of Engineers the authority to regulate river obstructions for improved and safer navigation. The Montgomery provided its services on several rivers in Alabama, Florida, and Georgia. In Alabama, it was on the Tombigbee, Black Warrior, Alabama, Coosa, and Chattahoochee. In 1959, it operated on the Chattahoochee in Alabama, the Flint in Georgia, and Apalachicola River in Florida. Often snag boats worked with barges and tugboats. Usually, a barge was tethered to the snag boat. The river snag or other debris was dropped onto the barge. Once the barge was full, the tugboat would take it away and leave an empty barge in its place. Logbooks for the Montgomery from the 1970s showed daily operations included removing 120 to 170 snags per day. By the mid-20th century, the Corps' snag boats operated on an annual cycle. During that time of peak river traffic, snagging operations would begin in May and continued through the end of the year. Then, from January to May of each year, the boats would go to dry dock for repairs. To give you a better idea of what the snag boats did and what they looked like, I gathered some pictures of other snag boats that operated on the U.S. rivers. Thankfully, the US Snagboat Montgomery is still with us to view and enjoy. Well, to some degree. For me, I had more fun researching for this video. Honestly, if it wasn't for the replica plantation home and the lock and dam, I might not have gone to see the Montgomery. I had thought I would be able to experience the Montgomery in much more detail. I am glad that I have seen the Snagboat. It is really very unique, especially now that the days of steamboats are over. Well, except for the few fun paddle wheel riverboats that are still around for us to really ride on, like on the Mississippi. I really enjoy seeing non-typical boats like the Montgomery, and I think that if you are a boat enthusiast, it is a really unique boat to go see. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe and like. It puts the steam in my engine to get on down the road to make more videos. And with that, please relax, take it easy, and I will see you later. Bye.